Larry also has a question. You say send 25 resumes out per day. In my specialty, process improvement in IT, I guarantee there aren't 25 companies in the Kansas City area that are funding that type of positions. Suggestions. So process improvement in IT, actually there are. You don't have to work for a very large company in Kansas City to work in process improvement. I work with a lot of Sprint people. Their specialty is process improvement in IT. Now, of course, there are a lot of different subspecialties in information technology, and I don't know what yours is, Larry, but if you are someone that can become a generalist, you can be the head of the IT department in a small but growing company. So if that's something that you can consider, there are 64,000 companies in Kansas City. So there are slices of pie that might be just a few $1 million. They may be less than 100 people, but now they're starting to grow, and they're finding that if they had an IT person that was in-house that could not only improve their internal processes, but then lead that department going forward. And if they can't do the job, they know how to hire a vendor that can. I mean, I've been very successful in putting together that branding message, and it's been very successful. So those are the suggestions that I have. Brand yourself as someone who can affect their processes of their entire company, and then you don't have to go with the really big companies that everybody knows about. You can go with the companies that nobody's ever heard of, because there's a lot of them. So I've got another one that says, another question, and then we'll move on. I've been out of the IT field for about 2 years. In the IT field, if you're out for 6 months, your skill sets are considered old. How do you get employers to notice you? That is also a very good question. In posted positions, they are very picky as to the skill sets. They really are. But if you're contacting companies who don't necessarily have something posted out there, you're proactively contacting them whether or not you know that they need an IT person, they're not as picky. And some of them don't even know what to look for. They may not have a large HR department. They may not be working with a recruiter. Although recruiters are a good place to start with IT, recruiters do require specific skill sets. So I would recommend, if you've been out of work for a long time, that you go more towards a smaller company as well, the smaller companies that no one knows about, and start proactively contacting them. And that could be email, that could be phone, that could be in writing. And you'll find that you get a better response than applying for a lot of positions that are out there publicly. Okay. So I see some raised hands, but we're going to go ahead and move on because I've got a lot to cover.
Well, Tammy, and I have to say that you certainly have given us some great information regarding the attraction tools, but let's really talk about, the basis for this call. How do you find the companies that are hiring?
Sure. That's a good, thank you. There are a lot of ways. There really are a tremendous amount of ways. One method that I teach my clients that I wanted to share with you is to study the business journal, and it could be the Kansas City Business Journal if you're in KC. It could be usually mid to large size cities have business journals, and it's actually a franchise. It's actually something that it's BizJournals, BIZJournals.com / and then the name of the city. You can just Google your city name and business journal. So in Kansas City, you can do Kansas City Business Journal. This is one of the more effective ways than searching online job boards. I suggest that you look at the business journal several times a week. What you're looking for is good news about a company. That could include a new product or service coming out. It could include new funding that they just received. It could be a large contract with a big customer or a municipality. It could be a new CEO. It could be a recent management move. Or it could be some record sales or profits from the last quarter or the last month. Anything that is good news. Some days you're not going to find much out there or anything, but there are other days that you find a lot. If you proactively contact those companies, and within the article, oftentimes the person that's quoted is the person that you can contact. And if it's a small to mid-sized company, I say usually less than 200 people, maybe 250, depending on the industry, then you can contact the owner. Because if it's less than 200 people, if it's a six-figure position, if it's a higher-level position or a highly skilled position or a senior-level position, then the owner is probably going to have some influence over that hiring process. So you contact the company proactively, congratulating them on the good news. And here's exactly how to find that article. So you Google the business journal in your city. You look at the headlines in the middle of the home page to find those first. Those are the newest headlines. And then you click on up in the upper bar. This is the navigation bar. You click on the word news, and it takes you to the most recent headlines in a different format. And below that it says More News, and you click on More News. It actually takes you to the headlines for the last 5 business days. And you don't have to subscribe to the Business Journal to find this information. So you can look at it for free, and if you're looking at it for the last 5 business days, technically you only have to look at it once a week. Now, they used to give you a lot more information back several pages, but now they just give you the last 5 business days. So if you look at it once a week, you can gather information on companies that are growing. If they're growing, they're doing well. And if they're doing well, then they're going to be hiring people, including higher-level professionals. Also, something that I show my clients is how to find press releases in the Business Journal. Very difficult to find. In fact, I haven't been able to find it within the Business Journal to navigate there. But if you Google Kansas City Business Journal press releases or Tallahassee Business Journal press releases, whatever city you're in, then it'll take you to a link that will go to PR Newswire, which is really the biggest press release clearinghouse in the nation. And it's within the Kansas City or within the Business Journal itself. The problem with particularly the Kansas City press releases, keeping in mind that press releases are always good news, which is a good thing, is that with the Kansas City one, it's hit or miss as to whether it's Kansas City or St. Louis. Even though it says Kansas City, most of the time they're St. Louis companies. So you have to go through the headlines one by one, and you look at the date line, which is the very first piece, the very first part of that press release will tell you what city it's from. So you need to look at just the Kansas City ones. So that gives you the good news that doesn't quite make it to a Business Journal news article. It's just a press release that's been given out by the company.
Now, Tammy, you had mentioned earlier about contacting centers of influence. Exactly what do you mean by that?
Yeah, sure. So let's talk about centers of influence. We're going to switch focus a little bit and going from finding the companies, contacting the companies, to finding people that can help you locate six-figure positions. So it really is about a philosophy of using your networking time most efficiently. A lot of people don't like to network. But networking doesn't have to be asking people if they know who's hiring, because that kind of makes the other person feel icky, and it doesn't really get you anywhere. It also, I don't think, is a very assertive. The method of asking people to pass along your resume is not also anything that's very effective, because oftentimes they don't know who to pass it to, and if they do, they pass it to HR, which it goes into a black hole, it goes into the database, and you never hear from anybody. So really what you're looking for is, instead of exchanging a lot of business cards with a lot of people, it's about exchanging a few business cards with a select group of key people. Centers of influence, that's what I call them, but basically they're the movers and shakers. They're the ones that know a lot of professionals. They know a lot of people. Now, that could be your pastor or your rabbi. It could be your dentist or doctor. It could be your attorney, your tax preparer. It could be your banker. It could be anybody that knows a lot of people, that has daily contact with a lot of people, because conversations come up and they hear of things. Now, some of the best centers of influence are leaders of job clubs. And In Kansas City, we have a fantastic network of a lot of job clubs, over 30 different job clubs in Kansas City. And outside of Kansas City, usually it's not so organized, but you can check different websites of churches, and oftentimes they will have a job club for the people that go to that church. So what you're looking for are organizations for job seekers, and the leaders of those organizations are perfect people to reach out to. And you want to be interested in them. You want to contact them either by email or by phone. Have a short conversation with them. Explain who you are, what you're looking for. Find out more about their organization and about them and their background. Job club leaders I've found are always passionate about what they do. So ask them about that passion, and then always end the conversation with, who do you know that I should be talking to? And that gives you a name, maybe several names, to contact to move forward in your job search. Another good place to look are chambers of commerce. And you can actually go into networking meetings as a guest. You have to usually pay a little bit of money to go into a Chambers of Commerce meeting or an industry association meeting, and you can hobnob with business owners. Now, business owners are going to be the ones that hire, and not, if you're in IT and you're going to an IT organization networking, that's your competition. That's not necessarily the people that are going to hire you. But directors of associations, industries that you're interested in, would be the ones to contact. And remember, if you have a particular function, let's say it's sales, let's say it's operations or accounting or IT, it's not really the IT association or the accounting association or the CPA association. It's directors of industry associations, and all of those functions can be done in a variety of industries. The best place to find those people is a website called asaecenter.org, and that stands for American Society of Association Executives. So ASAE Center, all one word, .org. And you can find the different associations. You can contact the leaders of those associations. That's also a really great place to find industry information, white papers, industry trends, so that when you're researching a company or an industry, that's a good place to find the information. Go ahead.
Wow, Tammy, I have to say that's a lot of great information, and I think certainly our callers appreciate the information that you're giving them. So in my note-taking, this is what I believe we've covered so far. You've covered how to find the right companies for you based on a specific criteria. You've also talked about how to have the right attraction tools in place, which I think is very important. You talked about how to find companies that are hiring the high-level positions, and then you also talked about who are the centers of influence, i.e., talking to the right people, which I believe, from my own experiences, is very important. So let's get to the final topic of today's discussion.
Sure.
How to win the interview. Strategies to give the person, any person, the callers listening today at this telecast, the competitive edge. How do they get that competitive edge? How do they win the interview?
Sure. And I do want to move it forward because I want to cover this topic so that we have plenty of time for Q&A, and I want to be able to be respectful of everybody's schedule, because I know that I said this was going to be 60 minutes. If we go a little bit after, it's just going to answer some additional questions.